Welcome to a new episode of Advancing Consciousness series with Franco Di Nicola. This is a place where people can come to gain further insight and clarity as to what is going on and how we can shift things on a personal and global level, while also accessing higher levels of consciousness and awareness. We bring this series to you free of charge so that many are able to access this information. However, if you resonate with what Franco shares and you would like to support his work to get more content out, contributions are welcomed and greatly appreciated. A link is in the description and will be provided in the chat if you feel guided to do so. Also, we have many previous workshops, such as the most recent, bringing out the new you to play in the new world, along with our membership program, Let's Talk About You, where like-minded people come together bi-weekly to talk about the topics requiring deeper understanding and clarity. All of these are available on Teachable, and we encourage you to check them out as they are great resources at very affordable prices to assist in better understanding this human experience. The Teachable link will also be provided in the chat and is also in the description. And lastly, don't forget to share. As more of us come together who are creating shifts in themselves, the more effective it will be to shift things globally. Thank you for joining us and being part of the change. Enjoy today's broadcast.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Advancing Consciousness series. The series here that is to stimulate you to really awaken within yourself who you truly are while experiencing this journey at a completely new level. So welcome to episode 18, part 4. And of course, this one's been pretty heavy. There's been a lot that's been covered, and we're going to go through it today much more quickly. And when I say quickly, I'm going to cover various points, and I'm going to go point by point, and we'll try to keep it as organized as possible. But just to give us the foundation of what's really going on so we have a deeper understanding and we can start noticing certain things that are playing out not only within ourselves but around in the playground we call the world. See, the whole point is this is all about self-empowerment so that we can say, I understand how the game is played. I have a deeper understanding. Now, this is not new in a sense where you don't know what's happening. You know it from within, but a lot of times our mind, ego mind specifically, plays a very powerful role for ourselves to kind of keep us distracted. And this series is just basically to really unite or ignite what you already know within yourself so that you could actually utilize it to self-govern and to self-navigate in a more powerful state as yourself. Okay, so it's a reminder, everything that's going to be shared and has been shared and to share today is not to create and stimulate fear or any form of disempowerment. It's really just bringing up to the surface any programs that come up for you. It's having a deeper look of how things play out in ourselves and how we've been using our operating systems and everything around us to kind of govern ourselves, which was a great experience up to this point in time and still can be a great experience if we choose to be there. But it's also giving us the option, the freedom to actually readjust wherever we want to navigate. So basically going into the driver's seat, you're going into the driver's seat in a sense of now using what you already know inside of you to the surface and navigate. So this whole process we're going through right now is really purging not only anything that we've experienced up to this point in time personally and collectively, but we're also reigniting, reactivating, re-stimulating the true fundamental core blueprint operating system, which was the beautiful, powerful aspect of ourselves that we have brought along in this journey. We haven't wiped it out. It may have gone dormant. It may have gone to a position where we weren't using it fully, maybe just a small piece of it, but it's there. It's there for you, and that's what we're doing here. So we're now taking the opportunity to self-empower and to really redirect our personal and collective playground. So personally ourselves and so forth. The information shared is also, this is a reminder, it's to level the playing field, because a lot of us have gone one way or another in our journey, in the sense believing that what we've been playing up to now is our natural state. It is our real world, where yes, we could say we could have utilized as the real world, but there's another world that's unfolding, another version of ourselves that's unfolding, and that is really what is coming to the surface now, because we're choosing, we're ready. Not only are we ready personally, but collectively we've made that agreement to move forward. So, with this information, it is leveling the field and giving you more freedom to support yourselves in the direction you choose to go, and really collectively shape, co-create much more powerfully than ever before. So some of this information may not be new to you. Possibly the way it's presented gives you a broader perspective, but that's still within yourself, and you're just now activating, stimulating. This is what it's all about. It's shared for self-empowerment. It's not about, creating followers or creating that, in some way you have to, accept what I'm sharing. I'm just sharing it openly because of great love, because we're doing this together. And if we can just stimulate our own guidance system, our own knowing, our sense of really feeling that empowered state, then that's perfect, because that's how we do it. There's nothing happening outside of us unless we co-create it, agree upon it, and so forth. But now bringing in these higher knowing perspective that has been kind of purging, trying to push through all the layers that has been put on top of it within yourself, it's giving you the opportunity to really, really, really step forward. So we're going to go through the different points. I may go through it a little quicker. I will elaborate and create more explanation and understanding so that you can really connect with it. But this connection that I'm providing is not just for the mind. We're not here to reshape your mind. It is to stimulate the information that it's already been receiving, not only from your innate body consciousness of all of the incarnation in human form, including the original incarnation for 5,000 years of his journey when it was in its natural blueprint, and that has been stimulated and upgraded and so forth, and that is also coming through Gaia, through our physicality. Is that part of it? And then all the experience and everything else that is being brought to the surface in the most refined state. Because the thing is, we have a lot of different experiences as the human entity. The human entity is kind of a soul aspect of you that has reincarnated over and over and over and over again on this playground of planet Earth. So it has a ton of experience. 15,000 years worth of experience on this playground. Okay? So all that it provides is every part of the experience of being on this planet, taking on different forms, different expressions, and so forth. And then the other part is to also bring forth more of that communication from your soul, that interdimensional source essence consciousness that you have within you, that has experience, that it shares from being in non-form, of being form on planet Earth at whatever times. And some have been here more than once, some have never been here before. This is the first time. But it has had many, many forms of incarnation on different playgrounds, different planets, in different suits, or what we call projected holographic expressions of physical form, with different levels of consciousness, different levels of experience in those playgrounds, in those physicalities. Many of us have been involved even in the different levels of creation that was put into our galaxy. Some of us have had such experience of that, but that's coming to you now to be brought into this experience. So all of that, the collection of what the Gaia has to provide, and our body together, the human entity's experience, the soul's experience, all brought up and really rewiring, reprogramming, using that powerful computer that we have, the mind, that has no limits and has a massive amount of access, because that is connected to what we call reality, our forms, matrices, whatever is there to play with. It's actually using all of that. And it's also come to the realization as we're going through this that that software that we have, that we call the ego, is not something that we have to still give power to and be navigated by. So it's a transitional aspect that we're doing. So it's an old idea. It's like, let me give you an example. For example, we may have held on to a complete idea that shaped our lives to one degree or another, but later on we realize that that idea does not serve us. It may have served us before, and it has. But then at this point, now you're looking at it doesn't serve anymore. And that's perfect, because now you're realizing you're becoming different. You're becoming another aspect of yourself expanding, so that is no longer required. And that's the same thing with the ego. It has served us. It has provided us some very powerful experiences. It doesn't matter what the codes were. It does not matter how much separation, confusion, and all of that stuff. It was a ride. It was a blast, if you want to call it that. It's been an amazing ride. But now what we're looking at is we're realizing the power, the importance, the focus, and the attention that we have given to that operating system software within our powerful mind is no longer of service. Now, the ego mind, that operating system, only uses 2% of the massive operating system that you have within the mind. It has a very small amount of influence when it comes to the grand aspect of it. However, because we've put so much focus on that, it actually is the only thing we went through a period where we only saw that part driving us. So that's what it is. So now the part of the remembrance is allowing all of this other powerful data, knowing, consciousness, and so forth to become part of the computing that your mind does in its projections of reality. Because when we're looking at reality, when we understand what that is, it is a projection that we are creating. We're all in a field of holographic projection and expression, and each one of us is part of that. Each one is contributing to what is playing out. And I will cover certain details as we go along to just crystal clear, make it a little bit more crystal clear of understanding how this works, so that you can actually say, okay, great, I can utilize it, but not have any fear from it. This is all about utilizing what you already been calling forth within yourself. It's not something outside of you. And the thing is to always keep in mind who you are is source itself, the very essence of existence. And you're coming back into that realization. But the realization's always been there. It's the realization and implementation, in this experience, this journey, in your physical form, in this playground we call Earth. So that's what I wanted to cover. Okay, so as we move forward, we're going to look at some of the things that are playing out so that we have a way to kind of spot them and say, okay, how much do I want to put energy in whatever is playing out there? Do I put my attention there? Do I put my focus there? How much of that that I'm seeing am I going to internalize and shape my reality by it? And also, how much of this am I going to internalize to see that it actually has power over me, or that in fact that it actually can govern me? Because as we believe that, or we get caught up into that, or we get tap into that, it becomes part of the package of our experience. But that part of the package of the experience is beautifully awesome, because we do that, but we get to the point where that is not appealing anymore. It's no longer a governance, or what we can call as part of our navigational system, so that we don't plug those things in. So it's really a matter of not judging what you've plugged in or adopted as an idea. It's to start unplugging all aspects of it. We only repeat certain experiences in our lives just to give ourselves other opportunities to look at it, no other reason. And we do that so that we get a better part of ourselves to decide and to feel much more done with this, I'm activating, focusing on this. I'm going to play with that. Okay. Now, first thing I want to talk about is the question we have to ask ourselves. We are in a very interesting playground right now. And there are lots of information. There is lots of different inputs that we're getting. And that is coming from the mainstream. It's coming from what is being shared on the social media and the different medias that are online and so forth. Okay? So we have all of this information coming out, and it's coming from all directions from various self-imposed experts and whatever else. Now, that doesn't mean that some people do not have certain experience of whatever's going on, because there's a lot of information that this is really powerful, because it actually kind of lets us look at under the hood what's really taking place. Some people find that a car under that hood is a mysterious thing. We don't even want to know. We'll let the mechanics look at it. And we're just going to drive the car and do whatever it is. But we're going to look at it because that actually is playing a very powerful role in how your vehicle moves. And that's just an example as something so you can understand it. However, moving forward in that, so the question comes in right now. The current people, the current leaders, the current people that are in what we can call levels of authority and lawmakers and providing information at this point, are they to be utilized as we move forward in the sense of what they share is what is? Are they equipped to provide us that? Or are we looking at them reminding us that there's more to it so that we actually connect with ourselves and connect with information that resonates, that really, really stimulates a knowing within yourself so that you can better govern? So here we are. We're talking about a new world. We want to create this new reality. And the reality we've played with has served immensely. Of course, I've said that many times, and I know you're starting to realize that more and more, and some of you have realized for a long time. So there's no judgment about the current situation and everything that's playing out. And we understand that we are going through this powerful transformation, really going into a new world. And the world is already, the platforms, everything is set up. It's just really us getting online with all of that within our alignment of ourselves. So the question is, these role players, these so-called positioned individuals, are they equipped? Are they equipped? Are they at a level of consciousness that actually can bring forth this, what we call new level consciousness, but also our new world, okay? And help reshape our reality, collective reality. Because you have to understand that they're playing two roles. Either they're equipped to lead into this new world, which represents freedom, playfulness, light, and creating what we call flourishing experience rather than what we call survival experience. They're either part of that, or they're playing the opposite to push us as far as possible from that to that disconnect point till you get to the point and say, I'm done with this. Let's now recreate. Let's now come together. So in most cases, most of the positions that are there, they're just creating that part of that polarity, that separation to the point you say, okay, you no longer have to play the role. It's time for us to bring someone that's aligned. And in most cases, we're doing it. They're just going to be a part of a representation of us as we become more in alignment and say, okay, let's bring somebody that is actually much more open in understanding the operating system, the understanding our true design, and what we really not only came here to do, what the potential that we have within ourselves and the potential of our playground. Did you have a question?
Yeah, Lena is just asking what is false holographic insert and how to remove it.
Okay, can you hold that one after?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll play with that. All right, so that we understand all of this, so when we're going through this journey, right now, as we're experiencing what we're experiencing, we're going to be able to see the sides of it much more powerfully. What is pushing the old agenda and what is actually allowing us to open. Because the thing is, for us to experience this new world is for us to experience ourselves as that new person, but to also reflect it as a co-creation. And so the thing is, we're going to start looking at it and say, okay, are these individuals still something I give power to, or are they just reminding us where we've been, where we might still be, and how we move forward to it? So that's very instrumental to look at it. You're not going to see them as the Holy Grail, the one that has all the answers and whatever else. You have to look at it, because as you become more aware, and many of you have, you start noticing that there's a dissonance of what is being shared. And it might push buttons and may feel totally off, but that's just an indication. Is like, okay, great, they're just doing the opposite so that I can see and make a shift within myself. Okay, so that's kind of the thing. So the point here is now we're going to start looking and saying, okay, great, what representation do we want? And when I say representation, it's a representation. It's not someone to come in and lead. Leaders are really ones that combine what the collective would like from a higher perspective to help design and put things together. But it has to be open platform where there's a deeper understanding and consciousness that comes in that is aligned in this new playground with this organic 3D and organic 5D and non-polarized, complete what we call unification, oneness, 0 point way of life. Okay? Because that's what we have chosen on a collective scale to do it. Now, it may not look that way because of so much polarization. And now, even with this latest energy burst that we've gotten, that actually accentuated separation, but accentuated polarities even further. So, some people call it another level of split, the split of the two. So you're going to find certain parts are going to be gravitating to the old and others are going to gravitate to the new, but the new is going to feel much more stimulated and the old is going to feel, okay, I'm going to continue playing with that. But that's all part and parcel to us, give us the opportunity. So the ones that have chosen to stay into that feared state and that operating system will get the opportunity to intensify without getting any dilution from the higher vibration. So they're deeper in the lower vibration to reach that saturation point and a choice point. I'm not choosing that any longer. Rather than kind of having that blend that at times that gets diluted when it comes to the higher vibration. And the ones that have chosen to go into the higher vibration and have already been working towards there and are experiencing are now more in that state. So you're going to feel that separation. You're going to feel that the individuals don't want to play with each other. Not that there's a judgment of right, wrong, good, bad, light, dark, or anything of that nature, but it's just that energy doesn't resonate. And it's only temporarily until the divide or the energies of that split gets to create the opportunity before it starts to blend again, but the blending still has a complete inheritance within yourself of how that energy is going to be more crystallized within you as what you call a higher spectrum, or sometimes people call it higher vibration. And it is higher vibration. Higher vibration carrying more light, but the light we're talking about is a more holistic, full spectrum light, which a lot of people are not experiencing that. They only get another facet of it, which is still part of the polarity, but that is getting adjusted along the way. Okay, so it's kind of some of the things so I can move a little quicker. I know I said that just a few minutes ago, but I have a tendency to kind of want to elaborate all of this. Okay, so we have to understand the current systems and organizations are still very much operated within the old implanted operating system. Okay, so we had talked about what we call the Lucifer operating system, which is governed by individuals at this point in time that are hybrids that have that operating system. Now, we have to understand, in that operating system, and this is probably what you've noticed, anyone that's in the depth of that operating system cannot see anything else. They feel parts of it, very minute, but they're to a point where they can do what people call atrocities and people call, brutality, whatever it is. They can experience such separation where wiping out 1 million people means nothing. But that's just because that operating system is so deep, but they're still playing that role within yourself. So now it comes to saying, okay, we have to understand that the majority of all the different organizations, governmental and organizations of, from possibly scientific, educational, through law, and through all of these other medicals, you name it, all the different levels along the way, are very much very integrated with that operating system. But that is also becoming destabilized. So it's just a matter of understanding, okay, great. Instead of putting all my attention into that, I realize that this is part of the old construct that's breaking down. How do I now shape and be part of creating something brand new that is not prevalent and really infiltrated with that older operating system? That operating system is not only becoming obsolete on our planet, it already has come obsolete on many other planets, and there's still some places that are still utilizing it, but are moving out of it, because that whole, what we call Lucifer operating system, was really to create an intensified separation from your very essence. And that was part of the experience that we agreed, because coming into that playground would make things a lot more powerful, in the sense of what can I do or not do at this point. Okay. What the top leaders and controllers, we have to understand the top leaders and controllers and so forth cannot shape our reality. The only way they can do it is convince us, get us so involved so that we believe, we take on the belief that things are a certain way, and then we follow suit. So this is why so much influence is put into what you hear, what you experience, what rules and so forth, and what is, a perceptual idea of what it is used heavily. Now, the only way they can shape our reality is not the fact that it can do anything outside of us. It's really to the degree we give them the capacity to say, okay, I take this on, I'm now going to internalize it, shape my reality, and project that reality as a worldscape, as part of the playground. That's the only way you can do it, because there's no other way. The thing is, so this is why the focus is on what you receive as input, so that you, as the receiver of this input, integrate that input, and then we project the world around it. Fear is not natural. Any part of the stuff that we've been playing is not natural. But we came to the belief system that it is natural because we've seen it repeated over and over again, and it's been projected in so many different ways, to the point of it's got to be it, and then you start to adopt it and shape it. Because as a child coming in, you have a very small amount of any of those operating systems within yourself, but the conditioning that we are exposed to shapes our reality to buy into it. And that's only part of the ride for a period of time. And now we're realizing, okay, I bought into the ride, it was a great ride, I experienced the ride, and it's pretty freaking awesome, and I got my medals and I've got my credentials and so forth of playing the game, but now it's time to really show my colors, show my essence, my truest form of sourceness as we are playing here. So just to understand, the conditioning that takes place is to make us believe whatever was opposite to our true nature. So they did this very much so to tell us that in one way, this is reality and this is not. This is a pipe dream, but this is realism. This is get your head out of the clouds because this is the way it works. You know, how many times have we had such powerful imagination and somebody says, come down to earth. Get out of your dreams. This is reality. Reality is about this. Reality is about that. And we have to play reality. You know, get your head out of the clouds. Get out of your imagination because that's not feasible. This is the real world. That's your fake world. Many of us have heard that as children and growing up, you know, at different times. Every time you have an imagination of creating a different world, a different reality, a different path for your life, get real. This is it. So that's how it's being used because everybody's kind of reinforcing that idea. This is reality. But we're coming to see the cracks in all of this reality because you start noticing this reality doesn't really match. It doesn't even feel resonant anymore. It may have felt real for a period of time. But as kids, you don't buy into this. You're all into this. But then you kind of dragged into there and you're playing it and you're adopted and you start playing your life. But now what's happening is that's breaking down. Of course, you got a lot of kids that are still, you know, especially the younger generation, are very inherent in that level, and it's not putting focus on that. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, Belinda's asking, but if most of the collective is still playing the old game, how can a small amount of us keep them from shaping our reality?
Well, you can't. Sorry. Pack your bags and off the planet you go. Okay. So it doesn't matter how many are supporting the other reality. I'm just going to bring it in line. I was just kidding there. Bring things back into reality here. You have to understand that everybody right now at one level or another chooses to play that other reality. The reality of our true nature. Now, they may not be done with the game that they're playing. Plus, a lot of them are playing the game to create the reality within the fact of saying, okay, I'm going to play the game to create such polarity so that other aspects of ourselves move forward in a big way. So, to understand that, there's a larger amount that are in the depth of the operating system we can call the Lucifer operating system under the Saturn operating system within the ego, and there's others that are moving forward. Now, the beauty is they're saying, please go ahead. Do this. Whatever's it take, just do this because what you're creating from the depth of our beings resonates. This other stuff, we're just caught in the web of it, but we're going to play it out until we get to saturation point. Now, that does not diminish the capacities of us moving forward. So we have to understand that each individual that starts to go into that higher vibration and starts to create a new reality negates 20,000 times the input that is put in from that other part of the collective because that energy is super unstable and it's super projected to the point where it is superficial in a sense and it cannot stay stable because all the energies that we are experiencing, not only from Gaia, from our body, from a human entity, our souls, and also what is being beamed down or projected, or we are surrounded by our own sun and by our galaxy and so forth, is supporting this part of us, this awakened part, this a part that is supporting our new world. So as we are moving forward and we start to play with that, more will come in alignment, but we're actually creating that beautiful platform energetically. So there will be, polarity playgrounds in the sense where you're saying, okay, well, now we're looking at martial law. We're looking at, in a sense, that we're all have to be vaccinated, that we're going to be surrounded by 5G. We're going to be, stifled because every time we speak out, they take us offline. And every time we we get caught or jailed or whatever it is. That creates a certain level of destabilization in that field. And this becomes more enlightened. Because look at it. If things are being taken out and said that, it's fake news and whatever else, it actually piques the interest of going, well, I want to know what it is. Who's telling me I can't watch that or I can't look at that? It actually works in reverse in many, many, many ways. So for the people that want to play in a higher vibration, start creating that reality within yourself and your environment with other like-minded. And that like-minded may not represent your immediate family at some point. But that doesn't matter, because as you're doing it and connecting with like-minded people, you're already changing the energetics so that it does filter into your, so-called family dynamics and relatives or whatever it is, but it also on a collective scale. You were going to say something.
Yeah, so Cameron is saying, so if you run into your boss telling you how reality is from a scarcity mindset, how would you handle them? Would you quit your job and hope to meet others who match?
No. See, the thing is, at that point, I mean, if it's total dissonance and it doesn't feel like you're finished, you're done there with no emotional charge, then you can make that choice. But no, it doesn't matter what the survival, scarcity, and all of that stuff that anybody's projecting. You allow them to have that projection. You're still holding within yourself what you know within yourself. So at that point, you can even say to yourself, or you may even say, well, I understand where you're coming from, and I understand the scarcity part and everything else, and you believe the reality. You don't have to say that, but if you feel guided to say that, you can. However, I see that the world is much more than that, and we have so much more potentiality that we can create. And what we're experiencing can be changed in a blink of an eye, because it is that easy to change it. It's just us projecting it. That's all it is. So in a sense of that nature, you will only leave whatever playground that you're going to leave in the work environment or anything of that nature because it feels that you need to go. But just the fact that they're putting scarcity in whatever else belief system, let them have their experience. You are living in abundance within yourself, the abundance of consciousness, the abundance of capacities of creation and so forth. And so by you just being yourself in that environment and whatever, you're already transmitting so that their story, their belief, their frequency becomes more unstable. And this whole thing about the engagement, because you have to understand, particular individuals are not done with the scarcity and so forth because they haven't reached the saturation point. But what happens is, how many people have we seen that have played that and then finally says, doesn't matter what happens, I'm going to be fine anyways because I'm this powerful creator or whatever it is. So it's really how much engagement you put into the game of that. Go ahead.
So this is going to be also as another example for you to share in regards to that, because Janice is asking, as an example, when house or property taxes become due by the end of this year and we are threatened, saying they'll take our property away if we don't pay or comply with these rules or fear and control based programs, are we in a collective position and now able to say no and not conform to these rules?
You are, but you have a fear around it, then that has more of an impact for you. So you can choose to non-comply. Now, of course, all the stuff with the property taxes, whatever else is coming up, even the deference that's been occurring right now, you still have the freedom if you engage with it or not along the way as you go along. Now, the game might be there, but you're not going to go in fear and whatever else. It says, okay, if it's really necessary for me to pay these taxes or whatever it is at this point, then I'll do my best to do so. And if I can't, it is what it is. And you'll notice that it won't have the same impact and it won't have the same results as long as you're in that neutral state. But we have to also understand, from now to the end of the year, or wherever it's going, we are also reshaping things such a powerful way. So to put the focus on, oh my God, what am I going to do at the end of the year when the property taxes are up? Don't put your focus on that, because that depends on, that's a reliance that everything is going to stay the status quo, that we're still in this operating system that is really, really coming into the forefront. But look at it right now. Let me give you an example. This is a real life example, what we're looking at. We are right now, you're noticing a lot of the governments are providing openings for us to, yes, defer certain payments, to receive payment to support us to pay rents and whatever else, and in some cases not have to pay rent for a period of time or whatever. Where's that all coming from? This is all part of what was so closed and rigid now is making allowance. And what's going to happen? More and more allowance. I mean, on a collective scale, we're choosing to free up what we call resources, financial resources, from a debit base to a credit base, in a sense. And I'm not talking about tying it into gold or anything of that nature, but from our essence, because I mean, we are really the play. So a lot of this will, be available along the way as long as we move forward. But the thing is, right now, is to focus right now. This is where I'm at. How do I shape my world? Do not, I'm not saying do not, but if it feels good to focus on the future, which is based on our current situation and our current rules, then you're going to have that experience. But at this point in time, it's just say, okay, whatever, because so many things could change by tomorrow. There's so much each moment we are collectively doing. With all of the stuff that we're doing right now, we can't even imagine what it's going to be like. All we can do is project our imagination of saying, that's no longer required. Everything is cleared, or whatever it is. You can choose that and still make whatever provision that you need to make, but at the same time not putting the focus based on what we're at right now. Go ahead.
I was just going to add that we just need to make a space for change to happen by
Right.
staying in the moment.
Exactly. So by being in the moment, that's where you make the changes. Like Kimberly was saying, being in the moment is our most powerful state, and each moment is new. And each moment there's a whole brand new unfoldment. Look at where we're at now, where we were a few months ago, where we were a few days ago, where we were, hours ago. It continues to change. So at this point, be present, be with this life, shape whatever you need to do at this point, and really don't worry about the future. Don't even put your focus on the future. If you feel guided to put some provision and say, oh, what is Frank was saying? He's crazy. Well, we have to take care of that. Well, that's from an old operating system. But that doesn't mean you don't take any action, but you don't take the action under fear. You don't take the action because, oh my God, I'm not going to survive. You're just like, okay, right now the way it is, so I'm just going to plug in a few things here and there, but I'm not going to even give a power that it's going to happen that way or not. You're really going to see how things play out for yourself. So a lot of the conditioning and so forth that is being made forth at this point in time is becoming more and more apparent, but has been apparent from day one, that the operating system that has been controlling or been shaping, let's use the word shaping, our realities, have always presented itself in symbolism and through analogies and acknowledgments and examples, even in the media, because the media basically, and some of you have spotted some of the older episodes of different shows and so forth have indicated certain things that were coming about now, even way before it occurred, because this is where we're heading. This is what we're creating along the way. So they had to make it very clear, because that's one a requirement, that we can't manipulate you. We can convince you, but it's our choice to be convinced that things are a certain way, but it's really us to convince ourselves to say, okay, I give in to that, or I acknowledge that, and I use that as my navigation. That's all. But at the same time, it's always on the surface. It's like, we have no power over you. We cannot control you. We can only convince you that this is life, and then you are the ones creating the life. You were going to say something?
SG is asking a question for Franco about us repeating experiences. Is that because the soul gets stuck, as it's not possible for higher self to get stuck? Wondering why we repeat painful patterns for years despite our own best efforts for constant diligence in evolving and understanding all this. What determines how long that goes on?
Okay, so any experience that we will repeat is basically our higher self. Now, there's three components to that. It's your innate consciousness of the body, the innate consciousness of your human entity, and your soul, that are going to participate to have certain experiences repeated only for the fact it wants to uncover every part of the program and power we've given to other older ideas that do not match to who you are. Now, so along the way, the reason we get into different relationships and we get triggered again over and over again, because there are certain areas that we haven't access to clear that part of it. Because we cannot experience pain, we cannot experience, and when I say pain, it's pain, emotional pain, we cannot experience trauma, we cannot experience any of that stuff that a lot of people put a lot of power into it, unless we have a story program belief system that has labeled and defined something for us, and then we create what we call emotional pain. Emotional pain is really driven by one operating system, which we call the ego, AI, Satan code. That's the only one that can actually create what we experience as pain. And then when we experience that pain, it gets localized, locked in, and the memory locks in sometimes in your body, at other times it locks in also in your human entity part of it. But the purpose is there not to keep it there. The point is to, especially with the stuff going on, it's going to come to the surface and then purge it out. But we have to kind of say, okay, oh man, I made a breakthrough, I moved on, and so forth. That's great, but be very diligent. What still may be active, what still comes up. A lot of times we say, okay, I never get it to the bottom of the barrel. I never, remove enough of those onion skins or onion layers to get to the core of it. But the thing is, we are, and things are moving a lot quicker. So you'll notice that as fast as things get projected or come up to the surface, it also moves through it very quickly and doesn't last as long and so forth. And that's progress that you're making within yourself to kind of detach yourself from what those ideas and concepts and belief systems of what that was at one point or another. And that also affects the chemistry of the body, how it works and so forth. And chemistry, again, is not, as chemistry. It's basically the operating system within the body. So the only reason you're going to repeat it is just to get deeper into getting to the core and clearing that out, or in times to really get to that point, something, and you have no judgment about it. It's like, I'm really done with this experience. Because a lot of times what happens is we get into the experience, it's like, oh, great, love and light, love and light, love and light, let's go play with this part of it. I'm not saying not that part, but you have to look at it and say, okay, I need to feel neutral here, and I'm not going to sway one or the other, but I'm going to be diligent. I'm going to be observing to see if anything comes up, right? I'm not going to create more polarity. I'm going to be open to receive, not only the love and light, but also any part of the old versions of ourselves, which some people call shadows or, other parts. But what the shadows are, really, it means that it's underlining, it's in the operating system. So, our shadows, what we call shadows or underlying program, was all constructed in the ego mind concept, and then it's stored in our subconscious mind. And then our subconscious mind has a record of it that the ego has a library source to keep tapping into it. And that's why it brings up a lot of the stuff that, you've gone through a long time. It's like keeps digging up more and more of it. That's all it is. So hopefully that clarifies it. Unless you had some point you wanted to add. Okay, so the media and different propagandas shape our reality to the point where we are shaped what is right, what is wrong, what we believe, what we don't believe, how to give, what we give power to, what governs us and governs one another. So if you're looking at it, this is where you're just being observant and say, okay, what is it saying to me here? Is it indicating what I should accept, how I should feel, how I should respond, what's important, what I should put my focus on, how I, shape my reality to this, how I judge others, how I govern myself and others? You're just basically, you'll notice, what is it telling you? Is it providing you self-governance, self-freedom, self-empowerment, or is it just trying to shape my reality? Because that's still around us, okay? But really, when you get into the state of observing, you're going to say, oh, it's just telling me this. But you have the freedom, absolute freedom. That freedom can never be taken away from you. It's just an illusion that has been taken away from you. That, oh, okay, it's telling me how to live my life, what I should have preference on, what I should focus on, what is successful and failure, what is this or that. Because realistically, when you understand all of that, it's projecting that, but you have to look at it and say, does that really resonate? Does that make me feel whole? And what that means when we're talking about whole, does it align with my core essence? Does it align with who I am and what I've come here to do and play and experience my aspects of it? So it's reminding us and it's exposing to us the opportunity to really, really look at that and decide how we go by it. So we have to understand there's lots of propaganda. There is lots of stuff in the medias that are exposed, even at times showing the opposite, in the sense of saying, oh, okay, these are the bad guys and those are the good guys. This is where you need to use your own resonance. How does that feel? Does it resonate? If it creates an emotional charge, you have to understand, emotional charges are really governed by this. Oops. It's governed by this because the emotional charge is a tool. It's a tool to embody you to the point it actually shapes the very foundation within yourself. Okay? So what we're looking at is that if I can make you emotional and I can make the emotion drive you, which is the full body embodiment or full body stimulation, then you're not going to look at any of this stuff. We're going to just go into it. So the thing is, if it creates fear, if it creates an emotional charge, it's this. And it takes a righteous position. We have to understand, it takes a righteous position. Oh, by all means, yeah, that's the way it is. And this is what we need to do. And how dare you tell me what to do and whatever else, because it will take that direction. But you have to understand it. It's still trying to keep you bound. And then the point is, you just start to recognize and go, oh, I got it. I see you. I love you. I appreciate you. And with great love, I free you. And you do that more and more, and this becomes more and more deactivated within you because you're not putting the attention on that. Because you have to understand, for this operating system, even the so-called Lucifer operating system that we are dancing in is very, very, very unstable. It requires low vibration. It requires emotional charges of polarity. It requires us to feel subjected by it. It requires us to go in self-judgment and, projected judgment and all of that stuff. It really requires us to be in fear, survival, in danger, the idea of danger, the idea that, we're not safe, that change and all of that stuff. It really requires all of that to stay stable because the energies now are not supporting, where it didn't require as much. But, so we went from being the battery of this. So from the battery, it's 2 T's, right? Yeah. From the battery now to just keep it alive. Do we keep it alive? So once we were the source to stimulate it, grow, now it's like, just give us whatever we can get to keep it going because everything else is draining us. The higher vibration is draining the energy of these operating systems. This is why we're even more able to make progress than ever before. We couldn't make the same progress if it had the same power and spellboundness on us. Okay? So that is destabilizing in a sense. So we just, for us to get on with looking at all of it, then we can actually facilitate for that to go. So in us, for those operating systems, the control of this going in is to give power to it. But I don't want you to be afraid of it. What I'm saying is I'm suggesting you observe when it's there and it's like, here I see it, whatever it is, as the observer rather than getting pulled in. And if you do get pulled in, go for the ride, but pull yourself back and say, let me just observe what's going on. Oh yeah, that's that program and so forth. Because you have to understand, every single belief that you have taken on is just that, a belief. It is something you adopt and utilize for a period of time. So if you believe that something had power over you, if you believe that in some way that's the way of life, that was just adopted for a period of time. But it's going into that knowing within you, is this so? Is this how it works? Do I give it attention, power, focus? Do I shape my life and reality around it? That's the choice you have. So just so you know. So the operating system is very, very, very unstable now, and it requires us to really engage. So that's why a lot of the things, polarity part has been stimulated. Like even this whole idea of whatever we're going through, the lockdown and virus and this and that, whatever it is, and the mongering of fear, like people call it, projecting of more fear. Oh my God, we're not gonna be able to survive. We have to do this, and we have to walk around with certain things on our face or whatever it is. It's just stimulating that as much as possible for the ones that are still in the depth of it to really hold its foundation, because this is losing grip. It's not being fed. It's not being nutritionalized. I don't know if that's even a word, but given nutrition, given the juice, given it the power. I make words time to time. Okay, given it the power that it had before, because there's so much draining that power because of the energies of not only Gaia, our bodies, our higher human entity, our souls, and everything that's coming in energetically. So we're in this big pool we call the quadrant of our galaxy, and that energy does not support this at all. So they have to disconnect. That operating system has to disconnect. So but right now we're going to push it. But the thing is, the pushing is just for us to observe how you sway so that you can deprogram, unplug the parts that actually take you down that road so that you are in that empowered state. So that's why I wanted to say it requires very low operating system. So as I said earlier, the operating system, this particular operating system, let's call it operating, because it is just that, an operating system that was applied to our original system, our original design and program. For this to exist, to be able to shape our lives, it can't, okay? It doesn't have that capacity. The program says we can give you a certain reality, we can stimulate certain parts, but you're the one that's shaping it. So let me just show you an example, because I will open it up a little further. So this is you. I'm not an artist by any sense. One skill I don't have, or haven't activated or utilized. Maybe there's a great artist, who knows? But it doesn't matter to me, as long as you get the idea. So there's you. So right now, okay, when we're talking about even the matrix, the organic matrix is on this screen. So let's call that organic. Organic matrix, organic world, our true design. Okay? Then we have this, which we call the inverted matrix. This inverted matrix operates within this operating system. Now, as much as this is no longer projected, the only reason we're still seeing this version of the world is because we're still convinced that this world is it, and we have to see this world. So we're seeing a screen before the screen, because the inverted matrix was put in as another screen to kind of take your attention to this screen and see only this, because you couldn't see the organic matrix. The organic matrix was the part that I've mentioned many times, 3D to 9D capacity. Okay, that's what it was. This, the inverted matrix, was the 2D and what we call the inverted 3D part of it. So we were seeing that, and so a lot of people say, okay, well, you know, if the inverted matrix is gone, the transmission from the moon is gone, and we're on brand new platforms that actually provide us to operate within. Oops, let me fix that. allows us to operate in 3D and 5D organic operating system, then why are we seeing the inverted matrix? Why is the world still backwards? Why do we see what's true is a lie and what's a lie is true? Why are we seeing all of these playmates still projecting all of this propaganda and stuff like that? Because a lot of us have got so ingrained within ourselves that this is the real world, even though it's just an imposed world that was there, that we're still putting power into it. So we're basically projecting it. So the reminder of this operating system is, okay, it's gone. We have no more power into projecting it. However, you're so ingrained and programmed by all of this that I'm going to keep stimulating it so you keep seeing it. But this is breaking down more and more. And for a lot of people, it's broken down. So you're already getting more and more glimpse of our true reality, our true world projection, which is the master creation that when it was retooled 15,000 years ago. So that's the only reason that we're still seeing it. It's there because we believe it's still there. We believe it cannot change that quickly. We believe that and that's just a temporary belief, because that belief is getting weaker and weaker. And there are more and more people that are saying, no, I'm going to put my attention on this. And I'm going to start seeing within. Because this one, as much as you're not seeing on the outside world as much, which you are getting a glimpse of it because you already see parts of it, this is very much alive within you. So you already have that vision of that world. The one that you think, oh, that's just my vision. It's not. It is a true design that's within ourselves. That's why it's key and instrumental to tune into ourselves, because that world exists already. We already have a glimpse of it, because this is the very basic, most powerful platform operating within our system. This one was all superimposed, and it required so much superimposement. This is why we've been projected over and over and over again. This is the way it is. This is the way it is. This is the way it is. This, projecting how you think, how you feel, and so forth. Because this is so unstable, unnatural, that it required a lot of stimulation for us to do it. To the stimulation where we had to actually create systems that actually interfered with our brain waves, and interfered with how we operate and see things. And this is why a lot of all the systems have been reinforcing itself to support this part. You were going to say something.
Question. Just a curiosity, is the ego frequency that is projected to our minds, is it a frequency that it's projected to our minds, or is it physical like an organ? Meaning, where's this AI?
Okay, no, it's just the software. So it's in our mind, but it's just the software. So in essence, if you're looking at a computer is a physical item. Okay, and it has a brain, it has a logic board, it has all the different components that actually compute. Okay, then we have a main operating system, could be Windows, could be Microsoft, could be Linux, Linux, whatever. That's the operating system. Okay, that's the plugged base operating system. Then you can install different softwares. Like you could do Word, you can do, something that does graphics, something that does this or does that. There's a lot of different operating systems within it. The ego is an operating system, and it's kind of a virus type of operating system because it likes to take over other software. Okay? So it's not an organ. It's an operating system that's within the mind. It was installed that way so that it actually projects constantly a reality that reflects the old operating system, or the operating system that we call the Lucifer operating, but it's basically the software is called Satan. In actual fact, that's kind of the name that was applied to it. But it's an artificial intelligence of so forth, because it tries to do everything possible to override all the other inputs that you have. So it's just a software, it's just a projection. It is basically communicates in a sense. Now, the projection part is when we had the inverted matrix fully intact, we were constantly receiving input from a mainframe type computer, which was situated through a satellite type apparatus on the moon, which was stimulating that software. So the software had its own connection to it, so it was simulated. Now, that does not mean we couldn't turn anything of it off, because many people have over the many years, even when it was fully active. It's not active now. It hasn't been active since the end of 2019, but at the same time, it's very still active in its own inherited part. So it's really a software. It's basically an instruction, and it relies on the mind as the as the computer. So the mind is the computer, and it uses hard storage. The storage information, the storage it relies on, is what we call the subconscious mind. And what is the subconscious mind? The subconscious mind is the part that records every part of the experience. The subconscious mind gives you everything that you've experienced and labeled. It stores it. So the ego mind taps into that, uses the mind to create those realities within you, because that's the computer that can create the realities and could create what we project, because it's a very powerful tool. And then it just taps into the subconscious mind and also other conscious, because the subconscious mind doesn't only record your experience, but other people's experience. What you watch on the media and so forth is all recorded in there as a baseline, saying, okay, we're gonna store this. Might have to use it at some point, because it can't distinguish between reality, what is and isn't, because it just basically stores the information. But it could stay dormant there, but until the ego mind says, okay, we got to use this for whatever reason. So it is a software. Okay. All right, so some of the stuff that is being promoted, I'm just going to go a little faster because I've noticed that we already got into, I didn't even scratch the surface here yet. So we may end up with a part 5. This is 4 now. So I wasn't intending that, because I wanted to cover something else before our meditation that comes up on Saturday. Okay, so part of the operating system will promote what we call certain addictions, and addictions of substances, chemical substances, alcohol-based substances, but also addictions to fear, to hatred, anger, survival, victimhood, drama, judgment, hatred. All of that are part of the stimulation, because all of them not only are polarity, it adjusts your frequency. And even though that is not natural to us, but because we've adopted it, this makes it look like it's natural, and it's been stored in the subconscious mind on so many avenues, through our own experience, observation of other people's experience, and whatever we've watched and have had within our experience, within ourselves. So it basically uses that. So when you're looking at your addictions to what you're being drawn to, that actually changes your frequency, because you can feel it. You can feel when you're getting an emotional charge of going into a fear or anything of that nature, hatred or judgment. Because the judgment doesn't even stop judging others. It's judging yourself. I mean, that's the first and foremost. We judge ourselves to the point where we now start to judge others, so that we don't have to look at ourselves, and we're always looking for fault because we have a judgment. But the judgment is not real. Judgment is a projected idea that we have adopted and utilized, because then it has a whole bunch of rules, what is acceptable, what's not acceptable. You have to be this, you have to be that. And I'm going to cover a little bit more of that as we're going along, but as we're going through that, you're just bringing all of that up to the surface. So it's something else to pay attention to, what you're drawn to, because that has a powerful impact. The other thing is, the operating system will promote what we can call abuse, sexual abuse, sexual brutality. Take something like what people call pornographic and whatever else, are used to reshape our reality in one way or another. What does that mean? It takes us from our natural state, for example, like when we're talking to pornography. If we look at it as a playful experience, but when there is an abuse involved between parties, then that doesn't feel natural. And the reason it doesn't feel natural because we are very loving beings, and any interchanging or exchanging or connection that we have somebody is really a merging of two beautiful beings creating that beautiful connection energetically, and it's a very space of love and a space of growth and a space of expansion. It's not a necessity, but it becomes that when the opportunity is presented because the two souls have chosen to. But it's projected the opposite. It's taken advantage of one another. Not only advantage, but just lost the word for it. Where dominance, that's the word. Okay, dominance of one another, or the fact of imbalance, or allowing each other to be fully in their expressive mode. The other thing it does is also brutality and greed and all of that stuff is projected. It's not natural, but it comes into a part. So it's just to pay attention to this. Here's not to scare you this. It's just like, oh, okay, great. Now that's what it is. It's projecting this part of it. But the thing is, you're empowered. You have the capacity to say, okay, I'm not going to give any focus to that. And I'm not talking about, oh my God, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to, whatever. I'm not saying you pay attention to it either. You just acknowledge it. Like, oh, that's still playing out in there. Is any part of that still active with myself? And then you can just clear it out by just saying, okay, I choose to release it. I choose to purge it. I choose to let it go, but with no judgment about it, because you don't want to judge the program either, the idea or concept, because then you give it life. Whatever you push away becomes more magnetized to you, in a sense, in its operating system, because one reason. It's not like what we call laws of attraction. What is it?
Laws of attraction?
Is that what it's called?
Where you push
Laws of attraction?
imagine.
Or something like that, where the same frequency comes in. It's not about that so much, because that only plays a very, very small part of it. I know we put a lot of focus on laws of attraction and all that stuff, but we have to understand it. The only reason it keeps coming there because there's still an active part of you that needs to be cleared, because once that's done, you're not going to bring it back in. You're not going to call it back in. You're not going to re-stimulate it to come into your reality, because it's no longer necessary. You've accomplished what you needed to accomplish. You reached your saturation, you've purged it. That's all. You got to look at it. Saturation, purge. Saturation, purge. And sometimes a saturation not even required. You just purge. Okay, I use that for a particular experience. And we play experiences with each other on different levels so that we are able to kind of, okay, let's move through this beautiful dance. Because that's what it is. It's a beautiful dance. Okay. So the key here, as long as your ego is active and running very powerfully with you, especially in the polarity world, because that's where the ego is very, very active. Polarity, right, wrong, good, bad, who can we judge, who's right, who's wrong, and all of that stuff. As long as that's active, you got to realize, oh, okay, that's the operating system still active within myself. Let me just take a look at what access points it has, and let's let it go. Love you. Thank you. I free you. Not a singer, but I'm just going to say. Say it in that way. Okay. The other thing is to realize, and I know this is not new, what people call mind control is used in the media to shape one's viewpoint from its natural state. Well, the mind control isn't convincing, really. Yes, you can go in an altered state because of the certain frequencies that you're looking in the media, how they use the flashing of frequencies and lights and whatever else to kind of put you in a trance state so that you actually accept that as a reality, or at least as part of a program. So just to pay attention to that and okay, well, does that actually feel natural? Does it feel in alignment with myself, or is it something I adopted? Because many of us adopted a tremendous amount. But you notice as you're shifting within yourself, as you become more conscious, aware, that you not only notice that, but it starts to dissipate. And that's what we're doing. We're dissipating it. The same thing with different organizations that have come together, even boards, okay? Meat marketing board and what do we call it? The milk marketing boards, and this board and that board, the educational board, the medical board, and legal boards, and whatever else. These are groups of people that have come together in a way that are playing within that playground to stimulate a way of life, to convince us that's a way of life. But in essence, those boards are basically, this is what you need to consume, because if you don't, you're missing this and that. Or this is the way the game is. If you want to succeed, this is the game you need to play. You got to, what is pleasurable and not pleasurable is all projected in that. So you just recognize that are these ideas that are being passed on at this point in time really, really feel in resonance for me? Does it really make me feel good? Because you have to pay attention. For example, if you're convinced to consume something, okay, mainly our focus is that little part of us at the tongue that likes to have flavor. But the thing is, your body's communicating all the time. The body's always saying, okay, this is not working for us. So you're going to have certain sensation. You're going to find that the body may stop operating certain parts or may start doing certain things, so that you actually recognize it, saying it's not in alignment. It's time to move on from this old pattern or this part of it. So it's really paying attention to it. It's not what you hear on the outside. Because even if somebody says, oh, you know, grains are great, or vegetables are great, and fruits are great, and whatever else. I'm not saying it's not, because a lot of it is much more closely to our operating system of what our body's designed for, even though the next level of design that we will activate is not even a requirement of it. But in essence, you have to look at it and say, okay, when I consume it, how do I feel? You're going to feel either elevated, or you're going to feel drained, or you're going to notice that there may be sensations and so forth. Sometimes the introduction of something that is actually a higher vibration may give you some discomfort temporarily, while there's a bit of an adjustment that goes in within yourself, because it's like, oh, that's strange. I've never had that before, because we were so used to everything lowering our frequency. But other times it would just say, hey, this is pretty cool. I feel much more energized. Okay, so anything that comes up our way, that I just wanted to say, nothing can be done without your consent. And I know we talked about it, so I'm just going to go really quickly. We consent unknowingly, and we are programmed to give consent. You can call it manipulation, or you can call it that we've been directed to consent. So the thing is, this operating system does not have any idea about we can override any part of it. No. It has to get your approval. Now, a lot of times the approval is the ego saying, well, if we don't agree with this, we may not be able to survive. Oh, by the way, if we don't do that, we're going to be ostracized. We're not going to do that. We're not going to be accepted, loved, appreciated. We're going to be odd. We're going to be this. We're going to be that. So, okay, I consent to bring this part as part of my experience. But the thing is, even though you consented at some point in time, and you've had the ride, the consent has to be constantly consented. That means that whatever you've consented doesn't have any power until you say, I'm going to give it power. I'm going to give it some more power. I'm going to still stay on that. But it's really your choice, your freedom to say, okay, something, as much as I agreed to play with that, and I consented with that, and I consented collectively to get caught up in the fear and whatever else, I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm not going to give it any more consent. Okay, so the other thing we want to talk about money. Money came around and was sold to us to control us, to kind of put us in a box, and to control one another. And some people call it enslave. In a way it is, because it actually lets us adopt to a system that if we don't do certain things and don't play the game a certain way, that we will not survive, we will not flourish, we won't be happy, we won't be successful, we won't be able to live our dreams. And remember, a lot of the dreams are constructed dreams that are coming from this operating system that said, okay, the only way you're going to be happy, you got to have all this stuff, or you got to live this life this way. But also recognize that whatever that we have as dreams, and many of us that have received it at any point in time have noticed it only lasts a short while before it's no longer valid, or there's something else to come about. So the whole idea of this money thing, that there's a limited amount, that it's a requirement. There has to be haves and have-nots, because if we don't have the haves and have-nots, then there's no value in what you have. And there's no value for you to go do something you may not even resonate with or like to do, or it's not even your natural state. We got to convince ourselves that we have to put in our time. We have to go do certain things, and to identify ourselves by it. By meaning that if I have lots of it, I was successful, and I can brag about it, and I can look better than somebody else, or I can compete with somebody else, or that in some way, the more I have, the more power I have, more money I have control over others, and so forth. It was only introduced because if you look at it, our natural operating system never had it. Okay? And it doesn't matter if it's tied into debt, abundance, or minerals, or precious metals, where it never existed. It didn't. It never existed on any planet. It was introduced on certain planets. It was introduced when the Luciferian operating system came in, where you're not valuable until you have something. You're not valuable until you have access to all of this stuff so that you can control certain things. And not only value, that you really shouldn't even be considered, something of content or whatever. And the whole idea, because it's been used for us to let go of our true nature and adopt something else. So it's just realizing how much power it has over you. I'm not saying to say, okay, it doesn't exist anymore and I would like to go. You could start already envisioning a world that doesn't require it, and that there was no lack. Because the thing is, it's really just plugged in whatever amounts. You can plug in and remove whatever you want to do. So to realize that it's being used as a tool. And I know even the spiritual people say, well, have to have exchange, or there's an imbalance and so forth. But that's a concept, an idea that was created. But in fact, while we're in the operating system saying, if I don't give something back, then there's an imbalance. As long as we believe that, of course, we're still purging out of that. But a lot of times if we don't invest in something, then we don't put as much value. But that's a program again. It's really about what you have at your disposal to utilize at this point in time. Because if information is coming out, like what's being shared right now and others are sharing too, you utilize it, say, okay, I'm going to utilize that to really shape my life and also expand my reality. So we're co-creating a complete. So it's just understanding that it's just a tool that was used, and the tool was not to support us, and it was never natural, because most of us don't feel natural with the whole idea that we need to have exchange, we need to have this before we have that, or whatever. That's very unnatural state, because even a child doesn't have any concept of it. Grow up, you got to get a good education, get a good job, then you can live your life. That's not a concept that exists from day one. It's something that has to be programmed, and the programming is to keep us busy, keep us wrapped up in chasing something and doing something. So as we go along, we're going to create different bridges, we're going to change different systems and so forth. Eventually the system will be gone because it doesn't really match. The idea of working for a living is part of the controlling, enslaving part of it, part of the disconnecting from our natural state, that we need to work. Now, when I say this, don't misunderstand me here. We all love to contribute. We all love to bring our gifts. We're all love to really be that essence of you as a contributor, as part of this co-creation. What I'm referring to is that we have to go do something to be something, to do something to have something. That's the part that I'm talking about. It is the fact that I got to go do a job and be a contributor to an economy, to a system. That's the unnatural part. Because our natural state is to provide, to play together, to share, to freely, openly. And it's not about ownership, about control, because you can't own anything. You never can. And everything that is in our playground right now is really our access as a collective. While you're here, you have access. While you're not here, you don't have access, because we're not entering in that playing field. That's all. You're in the field or you're not in the field. You're not in the field when you leave the form. Gaia is, it's not about, digging out whatever we need so if we have something to attach to or define ourselves by. It's not that. So just to understand that, I'm just giving you bits and pieces here. We can elaborate on some of this stuff at some point. The shortages and needs are a constructed need. So there's a shortage in needs. Okay, there's a shortage of food, there's a shortage of money, there's a shortage of resources, there's a shortage of whatever. That's a construct. We're very, very abundant. And when I say very, very abundant, we have whatever we need as long as we allow ourselves to need it. But most of our needs, we have to keep in mind, please keep this in mind. This is your thing to understand. Most of our needs are construct. They're really not what we need. Okay? We're constructed that we need all this stuff, but we don't. Okay? In our natural state, you'll notice there's really stuff that we need and stuff we don't need. Even the food is not needed, but it's needed now because we're still in the operating system where we cannot take the resources from the sun because we've been deprogrammed from it. But part of the programming and so forth. But until we move through that, we can create a tremendous amount of resources. And now there is overabundance in certain resources that farmers and others are asked to destroy it because in essence what's happening, we're not consuming it to the same level, and also to create this idea of scarcity, shortage and whatever else that just promote the fear, whatever it is. But it's up to us to say, okay, am I going to give power to that, or am I going to buy into that and then react? I mean, there was a shortage of toilet paper. Why? Because we thought there was going to be one. So everybody jumped into this whole idea. And of course, you go to the store, you reinforce it because somebody's hoarding all that stuff, right? It's interesting how we get to play with that. I'm not denying that that was kind of a nice little game about it, but it's really, really interesting. Okay.
Toilet paper's now back on the shelves.
It's now back on the, okay, so toilet paper is back on the shelf. I saw some people going in and doing exchanges in the, what do they call it when, what's that? In the alleys and so forth, where where people used to exchange drugs, now they're exchanging toilet paper. There was some of that, and showing that I can't remember all of them. And it was just humorous to watch all of that, where you go into the restaurant and they go, no, I don't want your money. You had to pay with toilet paper or whatever, so you're taking out little sheets. So it's just making a humorous to that because a lot of people bought into the idea and we give power to it and so forth. And that's fine, it's part of the journey. But those exaggerations are really, really instrumental in a sense to kind of put us back into reality. Okay, the other thing I also wanted to talk about. Certain frequencies are used to disconnect us from our holistic experience, like music, to activate aggressive emotions, to shape our thought forms, to shape our perception, and to create a way of life. So if you notice a lot of the music that comes out now, I'm not saying all, but a lot of them, that especially in the mainstream, really play with your emotions and play. But I'm going to give you something else that I'm going to share with you, which, I've talked about it possibly at different times, but others have brought it up to the attention too. So it may not be new because I'm not the first one to talk about it, but I'm going to add an extra twist to it, okay? Which is, maybe you realize it because we all know this stuff. It's not outside of us. So when we're talking about music, the music all the time creates aggression, creates, we got to fight, we got to do this, we got to do that. Or it creates emotions for us, sadness or, certain elations or whatever it is. Music sound is very powerful. And this is why the music industry has made a lot of changes because it goes, no, we can't have that to shape us, but we're going to use it anyways to create, this or support this operating system. So you've noticed, and so a lot of people have talked about it for years now, a decade or so, if not more. The whole idea, and even Marco's music that was in part of our introduction there, he's been very diligent in doing whatever possible to retune it to the different higher frequencies, which a lot of people are now trying to do. But our music used to be 432 hertz. And then it was mandated, I don't remember how many years ago, it was a few decades ago, that everything had to be tuned to 440. But why? Why? What's the difference? It's only 8 hertz. Why should we even give it any power? Well, yes, that's true. We don't have to give it power, but let's take a look what happens. When we are at 432 hertz, it engages all of us, the whole aspect of ourselves, whole body. 440 does not. So, 432, whole body. 440, just the mind. Look at it this way. You're listening to music at 440. Now, it's even hard to get instruments that are tuned at 432. It has to be really old instruments and that have not been taken out of the equation. Electronically, digitally, there's a reproduction where we're trying to tune things to 432, but that's basically people that are unconscious. 432 engages the whole body. What does that mean? That means that the music opens up the channel for us to connect with our body so that we are getting the innate consciousness of the body, the consciousness of our human entity. And remember, these are all sharing, levels of consciousness and experience and our soul. Well, that's pretty messy. Our soul, what we call higher self. So when you listen to the whole music, you would feel it. You can experiment. There's a lot of stuff online that you can check into. You can listen to two similar pieces of music. One is at 432 and 140. You will notice when you're listening to 432, you feel it throughout your whole body, the frequency, which keeps that oneness within you. So the whole engagement of your whole your body, your human entity and soul is engaged in the music. Where at 440, it's only going into the mind. Why? Because if we're focusing only in the mind, the computer, then I have more power to stimulate this, which is part of this operating system. Again, if we're tapping into the computer, we will have more control over this because it gets diluted. Understand this, diluted. Because if I'm trying to control the mind, at 432, there's so much input from the body, the human entity, and the soul that I cannot give you instructions and you to follow it to the same degree. Because this stuff will put input also into the mind and say, no, there's a dissonance there. It's not how it is. I'm sharing you my consciousness. So there's a dilution that occurs. That was understood. And if I have to control your mind, if I have to make you stimulate this part, we're going to tune it at 440 so that we have direct access to that. We're negating most of the other part because the other part is not feeling it because we're only going to this part. Then I have a better chance to do so. Now, the sidekick to that is the impact that it had, the 440, and still has a certain level of impact, is by the higher frequencies that we are receiving not only from these parts of it, but from our planet and from the sun and everything else, is actually, even at 440, it's diminishing its impact. Okay? So, the mind's the computer, the ego has access to the mind, and if I can give you music at 440 that stimulates some of the programs that are there, and especially the ones that are much more message-based on judgment and fear, about rebellion and all of that stuff, then I got you more in the operating system. Go ahead.
Someone's asking about the other frequencies, such as 528, because there's other frequencies that are beneficial besides.
Oh yeah. No, yes. When you were talking about music that is tuned with different natural instruments that are, what is it, 528 and 7/3, whatever. There's all different stages of it. They all impact, and it actually engages all of you, and it actually activates higher levels of the body, human entity, and soul frequency and consciousness at that point. Yes. So I'm just talking about the mainstream music, why they tuned it down. But there's a lot of people that right now that are, very spiritually connected and so forth, are using those higher higher frequency, higher notes to stimulate the different parts. So this is why they're using the 528s and beyond, because it actually stimulates those codes that we have within ourselves. So yes, definitely using those higher frequencies do create. It's just that the mainstream music used to be 432 a few decades ago, and then it got changed to it. In fact, the music industry said if you want to put any music out, it has to be tuned at 440, and no real reason for it. That's the new law. That's the new requirement. Now, the stuff that is being done at higher vibrations and frequencies and so forth and are tuned to those are not the mainstream stuff, but it's becoming a little bit more mainstream because a lot more people are connecting with that. Okay. So the operating system, this operating system here also, and within the music industry and movies and whatever else, uses being happy, sad, keeping us unstable, seeking, always seeking for happiness, always seeking for something better, always seeking, because it always says it's outside of us and we have to find it, we have to do whatever. It also creates a lot of distractions. So just notice, if you're still bouncing from happy to sad, then this operating system is utilizing some stories, programs, and belief systems that you're now coming to the surface that you want to let go of and clear out. Feeling unstable, feeling insecure, all of that is still part and parcel of the operating system. Always seeking for something outside of us to bring us into happy, sad, or stable, or safe, or anything of that nature, that's still part of that. And then if you find that because that ends up being a distraction, it keeps us always into that distracted state. It's just to pay attention to it. It's like, oh, is it distracting me right now? Because everything is within you. You can tap into those resources within yourself. Okay, so that's available. It drives us to judge one another, to judge ourselves, to compare ourselves, and to compare others. This is why we are so convinced to look at others and to compare ourselves to. I need to be better, or that I need to feel bad because I'm not as good as them. Or the fact of judging other people because, first we judge ourselves and then we're looking for other people to judge because it feels so uncomfortable to judge ourselves. So if you're carrying an extra weight and then it's the idea is bought into the fact that is a bad thing about yourself, now you're going to look for others and judge them so that you don't feel so bad about yourself. But that is all construct, the whole judgment of anything, to compare that this is good and this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. It's all part of the operating system. It's just to observe it so that you can actually now say, oh, okay, I'm giving power to that, I'm getting involved in that, now it's time for me to purge it.
So Ariana is asking, can you speak of the effects of those alarms, i.e. Vehicle backup noises and other non-harmonic sounds we are bombarded with all day, like I'm assuming like sirens and all that stuff?
Yeah, because what's happened is a lot of times what happens is with a lot of these sounds, we get conditioned to, and especially the frequency they use, that is something that's unsafe, that it has to create fear from us. Like if you're hearing a sound of something backing up, beep, 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 whatever it is, and it's like, okay, I see it, that's there, I'm moving out of the way so that it can move its way through. But most of us relate to it, being shocked by it. Oh my God, danger, right? Same thing with sirens, danger. And we're conditioned, oh, we gotta get out of the way, or that there's something happening that is bad.
Alarm clocks.
Alarm clocks too. Alarm clock. It's pretty interesting. Some of the alarm clocks, the newer ones, that they have a nice little chime. But the thing is, or harp music or whatever it is. But some of them are really startling because the majority are. Because it's like the alarm goes off. Oh my God! I got to get into gear and I got to go out and play the game. I got to go do this, or I'm going to be late, or whatever it is. And we're being conditioned to respond a certain way by certain sounds. So we're creating associations with sound to something. So we have to realize that we're being conditioned, and we can decondition ourselves so that when we hear those alarms, you say, oh, okay, and you feel a certain emotion and say, all right, that's a conditioning, that's a programming that's coming up, and I choose to negate it. So you first acknowledge it, you thank it, you love it, and you let it go. And when I say let it go, you're basically saying, okay, that is nothing to be alarmed with. That was only a conditioned response and whatever else. So you're going to find that starts to deprogram within yourself. So you're not going to respond in the same way. The same thing with the sirens that you used to hear from before when war was about to strike or something like that. That's been conditioned to us. Because I remember even as a kid, when I was a kid, where we were living, that they would play the sirens. I can't remember if it was weekly or monthly, right? And I remember these big horns that were attached to certain buildings at the time, and every so often you would hear, these sounds, and I remember it was like the sounds, and it just sounded weird, but then we were programmed to believe through education, through our parents that lived through those sounds, because they had an association. Those sounds meant potential war, that we were unsafe and we needed to take cover, or that something bad was going to happen and so forth. And so that was the conditioning. And so I remember hearing those things, and my parents would go, oh, that something may happen. But now those were just drills to kind of keep that alive within ourselves. Of course, it stopped after some time, like several years later. I remember they stopped doing those tests. And I know sometimes they were doing it on TV, where they, you would have that sound and the symbol or whatever was going on, that this is an emergency and this is a simulation of emergency, just to kind of our attention. But it was always the programming of that. So it's really us to deprogram from that part. Go ahead.
She was also asking about the physiological effects on body and energetic field. Those sounds coming
Yeah.
at us.
Yeah,
Like
again.
loud cars that we hear, like.
Yes. Well, a lot of those frequencies actually take us out of our harmonious frequency within ourselves, because the reason they're coming in at certain pitches and certain loudness and frequency is to disturb this our natural cellular structure within ourselves. So it creates agitation, because a lot of these frequencies create agitation within ourselves physically. So because there's an association to that. Now, eventually we'll get rid of all of that stuff, because we don't have to do it in any way. But the first part is to disassociate with that. So when we're feeling that within ourselves, just really experience it. Acknowledge the experience that the body's responding to that. Appreciate the stimulation it gets. Project love to it. And what happens is you recondition that frequency so that it doesn't have the same effect. And the thing is, when you have that exposure, you don't have to expose yourself to it. But if it does create a certain reaction, then really just go through the deprogramming process of it. Acknowledge it, thank it, love it. And as you do it, the body won't react, because those are memories that are being still carried over, that we've picked up from the lineage, we have picked up through the incarnation process within the body response, because of conditioning from a long time ago. So certain frequencies right now, still feel very agitative to us, because we still have that. But you'll notice at certain points that even those frequencies won't have the same impact, because we don't have the same association to it. Okay? We're also trained and conditioned to like Okay, what to like, not to like, what to judge, what not to judge, right? Again, this is all part of the programming. I'm just kind of put some points here that I wanted to cover, so I make sure that I cover them. So we're trained to condition what to like, what not to like, what to judge, what not to judge, what to accept, what not to accept, and so forth, which again are part of the older inverted matrix, because we already have that inherent of what matches and doesn't match, what feels in alignment, what doesn't feel in alignment, and the alignments will change because certain times we feel aligned with certain things and then not later on because we needed that alignment or experience of feeling aligned for a period of time, but then we're moving along the way, so those alignments will change within ourselves. So it's just to understand it. Okay, we're conditioned. Oh, and this is a good one. Do you have something you want to say? No?
I have a couple questions, but the one I asked earlier, but the holographic.
Okay, we'll get to it.
Yeah. I'll
I've noticed that we're running
run
out of time.
again.
Let me just see here.
So we may have to do another one.
Well, there's going to be a part 5 now. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. All right.
So
Some of the stuff I already covered along the way because it gets merged in there.
but we can do 5.
Okay, we'll do a part 5. Okay, but I'm going to carry on just for a little longer, even though I feel like I'm running out of juice. But anyways, we'll carry on. We're here, the troopers. What? I love my my sweetheart partner because yeah. Anyways, she loves to remind me that I have to say where I stop. I don't. I am a victim to my soul, and I'm sticking to that. Okay. No, I choose to participate and move along as we choose to do so. I'm here to share. Okay. So this is a big one. The operating system, this operating system, with the aid of this and everything else, also conditions us to be a nobody until you're a somebody under certain set rules. You're nobody until people tell you you're somebody. You're nobody until you achieve a certain set of rules or achieve certain accolades or that you've achieved something. So a lot of times you say, well, I'm a nobody until you're successful or, you're loved by many and all of that stuff. Those are programmed aspects of it. You're already a divine being. You are unique, offering an expression. You are like anyone else, and all existence is source at the same time. The idea that you're a nobody is just that. It's a programmed idea. And that we have to do certain things to bring value to ourselves or to be valued by others. Those are all constructs. It's not your natural operating system because you already know you're a powerful being. You already know you're a fantastic offering. You already know that you are source, you're the existence, you're immortal, you're infinite. You know all of that. But then all the programs kind of make you believe otherwise. So you're looking at all of that and saying, okay, I'm not a somebody, because a lot of us have walked around unworthy, which is a construct. It's not true. It's not possible. We just create the illusion of it. That I'm unworthy, that I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable enough, I am not this or that. Those are all constructs created within this. Just please understand it. It's up to you to understand it or not. That this is just a construct. It's not real. You already know what I just said you know. Okay? So that's a big one. The operating system will promote polarization, negative states, and energy. Programs people to judge one another, to fight with one another, to not trust one another, to hate one another, to steal from one another. Those are all programs. I got to take or else I don't have enough. I got to take for me to have more. I got to judge one another so that I can feel good. I need to compare myself so I can feel good. Those are all programs. They're not natural. You're already powerful. You're already beautiful. You're already amazing. You're already the part of sourceness expressing in whatever way you are. And it doesn't matter what your package is like. It doesn't matter what you do, don't do. You didn't come here to be the same. You came here to be a powerful stimulator, activator of whatever role you came to play. But your roles are always changing. Your roles are constantly expanding. Okay? The whole idea that we need to define ourselves to meet requirements and expectations. Okay? Requirements on what rules? Rules that have been set out that are not natural rules. You know, that we need to define ourselves, that we need to label ourselves. I am such and such because of my accomplishments, because of my education, because of my status, because of my family, because of my lineage and all of that stuff. Those are a programmed idea. Your lineage, your true lineage is source. True lineage is all existence. Those sublineages are just that, sublineages that we adopt. So the whole idea, I need to define myself by my status, my accomplishments, by my following, is just layers and layers of that polarity world that we used to play and give power to it just to give us the opportunity to kind of experience it. But we are to transmute all of it. We're also deeply programmed what is unnatural to look like it's natural. Pay attention to that one. We're programmed to believe what's unnatural to be natural. And what was natural is no longer natural. To the fact that with our natural state of what you loved, what you connected with, what was your reality, that's not real. That's not natural. Get your head in the real world, all of that stuff. It's just part of the programming, that we are unprogramming ourselves. So really pay attention to what feels or doesn't feel natural. Okay. And the other part of it, we are also programmed what is our natural, organic 3D to 9D, an organic matrix to be unreal, and the inverted matrix to inverted 3D and 2D to become natural. And that's the only way we have been able to play the game to the degree we have. It was not possible otherwise. So we had to get into this idea that in one way or another, this is natural. This is the real world. How many times have we said that to ourselves and others have said to us to keep ourselves in check, to keep ourselves all aligned? Nobody wants to step outside. Like the collector, there's collectors. There's many of us that collect each other. Join my group. Let me share this one. This is a doozy. A lot of organizations, groups, family dynamics would like to have no one outside of the box. What I mean by box? Boxed in thinking. Okay? Groups come together to create a herd mentality. Why are religions convincing others? Why is tradition, people that play in tradition are convincing others that traditions are necessary and beneficial and we have to adhere to it? The reason is that we condition each other to play within each other so that because we're feeling unstable. Pay attention to this for a second. This happens to all of us. I have to convince others that this is real because a part of you is feeling it's unreal, but if more people buy into the realism, then I can feel comfortable in the unreal. So I'm going to convince others to be the unreal is real so that I don't feel uncomfortable in the unreal. That's a little bit of a mind twister. Let me convince others what is unreal to be real. So let me convince others that this box is the game we play. This box is real. This box is what sustains us. And this happens to be with religions, cultures, what does people hand out all the time? Traditions, right? Traditions, way of life, which is basically inverted matrix 3D, 2D. Because organic 3D to 9D, organic matrix, does not adhere to boxes. You can take little pieces of it and plug it into part of your experience temporarily, and you move in and out. That's all. Easy. In, out, in, out, in, out. That's all it is. But this says, no, no, no. You do not think out of the box. You think like us. You accept the rules that we've accepted like us. You got to be like us, because if you're not, then you're a foreigner. But there's two parts to that. So first, it's saying, we got to stay together in the box, because what I noticed, a lot of people that were kind of convincing other people to join an organization or to be part of this whole idea that, a religious order or something of that nature, the reason they're going out to, how do they say? When we're going out all the time and trying to convince other people, not activists. What does the Bible thumpers do?
People,
Yeah, whatever they do, they're
on your door.
yeah, they're trying to save you or something of that nature. Go ahead.
Think of their name.
Oh, okay. Well, evangelists or whatever you want to call it, whatever. They're out there to save you by convincing you that there is this deity and that we have to follow these rules or whatever it is. And I found over the years, the ones that were doing that they were feeling so unsure. There was something stirring up in them. And if I can convince as many people as possible that this is the way of life, then I don't feel as uncomfortable in this box. So more participants I have more reinforcement, because this is what the ego says. More playmates are there, more power we have to convince ourselves to stay in the box. Now, the twist to this is that some people in these boxes, some individuals there, are breaking out and they're shaking up the system. The participants in the system are saying, oh, I don't want to be wrong, and you got to follow my rules, or what everybody else, the herd mentality, says, but at the same time, they're also welcoming you that you're shaking it up because you're kind of lighting up that knowing within themselves. So they're saying, wake me up, but at the same time, the ego is saying, or this operating system is saying, no, don't wake me up because I'm going to see that I was wrong. Well, again, the wrong is a program, because then it's like, oh, that is not natural, and it doesn't feel natural for me, and I don't have to give power to it anymore. 3 little quickie things, and then we're going to answer those quick questions.
2 questions.
2 questions, and then we're going to stop.
One might not be quick.
Oh, they're not going to be quick?
Well, one might not be.
Okay. Well, okay, one more point. I'm not going to cover the rest of it. Oh, let's leave it at that. Let's stop there. Okay, because I was going to talk about who to love, not to love, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and
let's save it for tomorrow.
yes,
I mean, not tomorrow, Thursday.
Thursday. Okay, for part
So we
5.
can just ask these couple of questions.
Let's go with the questions.
And, yeah, and call it a day.
Okay.
So the one that we
The original one,
the
first one.
original was what is false holographic holograph. I don't have it in front of me. I'm just. How is it inserted and how do you remove it? The false. I think you must have said something about it.
Yes. Okay. Well, basically, we're looking at this. This is kind of what we call a projected holographic expression, and this is our natural or holographic. Now, everything is created anyways, but this is an alignment where we are choosing to, and this is projected. So what you're looking at is the only way that the projected holograph, or what else the word that you called it?
Inserted.
The inserted holograph is what this creates using the subconscious through the mind, creates all of these other holographics. So it's basically, this is the inserted holograph. So how do you do that? For this holograph to exist, you have to buy into the programs and belief systems and so forth. Now, as everything that we've been talking up to this point in time, by looking at all of these operating systems, what you're doing is you're disengaging the capacity for you to see this inserted holograph within yourself. Because again, you now get to see beyond that, and you see the more natural holographic projection, because everything is always a holographic projection. What you have created or see as a reality within yourself in your holograph and how you experiencing yourself, unless this is operating, you can't see it. This does not exist without this. So what happens is you start looking at the programs that this is projecting to make this real, and as you start to reverse from that by unplugging each one, then you'll notice the inserted holograph starts to fade, starts to disappear. You start seeing through it. And some of us have already at certain states of consciousness or certain elevation that we experience, could be through music, through whatever that we're experiencing, and we connect with that ourselves, your worldview and your mind changes. It doesn't seem hopeless. It doesn't seem one way or another. It doesn't seem polarized. And a lot of times people go, oh, I just tapped into oneness. Well, this is, reflects oneness, because it is a holographic projecting that includes all oneness. This is the inserted one that creates the separation. So it's really about letting go of the programs and stuff that comes up for us and old adopted ideas that we have gotten, and giving power to certain aspects of what is being projected as a reality. Because as long as we're giving power to the reality has power over us, if you want to call it that. So it's just a matter of observing. Is there anything else? How have you seen it yourself personally from one holographic projection to another, where you've seen changes in certain individuals, what you see in your reality? What are some of the key things that you've experienced personally?
So, because I was typing when you were talking as well,
Okay,
so I didn't
sorry about that.
pay total attention to what you were saying. What have I noticed?
Well, okay, so we have the inserted matrix, or the inserted holographic projection, because that's what a matrix is. It's a holographic projection, okay? For you to get a glimpse of that.
Yeah, so what I see for myself, I get glimpses often, in fact, more and more as we go along. And, you drive around in a neighborhood or in your town, and you look around, and it looks, I always liken it to when my sister and I used to make fake little towns in the sand, and it was like this was a whole created backdrop that has been created for us to just play in, so it seemed unreal. It was like I was just walking around like a little, just that the whole scene, the whole everything is just not real.
Right.
So yeah, I get glimpses of that, like, and you're just driving around or you're just whatever, observing life, and all of a sudden you just get a glimpse that, wow, this isn't real at all. This is just imposed.
Yes, exactly. And the other thing you'll notice, and you probably experienced it, because there's a lot of things you don't see and you don't experience because your focus is not there. In the sense where, some people, let me give you an example. Some people are always experiencing, say, negative consequences, or meeting people that play a negative role and so forth, right? In the same level. And then there's other people that don't experience that. And you probably notice you don't have too much of that. And even when you meet people, they're kind of nicer, even with the social distancing. That, people, you'll see sometimes, but it doesn't really become part of your experience. You kind of see it as, oh, that's the projected part, or what we call.
Yeah, there's more of an observer point of view coming through. Like, you're just observing what's going on here around you, but you're not in it. You're just watching it.
Yeah, and then the only part that you actually interact with is the part that is more.
But you want to.
Yeah, it's more in alignment to where you're at. So if you're going in that people are going to fight each other, whatever it is, then you get involved in that rather than just seeing as an observer state, because you can see both screens, but your attention was one or the other. Not that one screen's better than the other. You're not going to go into the judgment boat, but you're going to see, oh, okay, there's that, and there's this. Okay, great, perfect. What was the next question?
The next question, hold on for a minute. So this one is about wanting to create your own experience or your own environment. So I'm just looking for it. Valerie. She wanted, when she came here, and she feels very guided, and feels very serious to her, that she wants to create a home for herself on a floating rock in the sky. Now she says, did she wants to know if this is possible, or did she end up on the wrong planet for her to do this? She said
Okay,
this
so
is serious for her. She feels really strongly about this. She wants to build it herself, and it's a serious, I guess, feeling that she has.
a floating rock. Sorry.
To build a house up in the sky on a floating rock.
Oh, okay, okay, all right. Well, the reason that you're having that experience, because it's very much possible, and in fact, this whole thing about the whole thing about gravity, where you can create and whatever else, is, again, a lot of it is been what's been projected. Now, in this, we have those channels of capacities to do so. If you see it, envision it, see it, and how can it come about? While at the same time not denying the existing experience, because there's lots of it there. You didn't come onto the wrong planet. You just brought part of what you've experienced from another planet here and want to see how you can create it. So it starts off in your imagination, starts off through the projection that you're doing, and you're creating that opening. Because as we go along, you will be able to do that more with ease, but it starts within yourself. So nobody's on the planet the wrong, but there are people that have come, or what we call souls that have come, and with the intention to achieve much more progress than we have so far. Okay? And many are like that. And I can say myself too. So we had a different vision, but you don't drop the vision, you still have the vision, but we have the option to leave. We have the option to say, okay, well, it's moving too slow, I don't want to be here. But then there's a part of us that says, you know something? This is getting exciting. I want to be part of this. I want to see how much of it and what I have brought in as my imagination, and what I've brought in as an example of what I've created somewhere else, or attempted to create and create a simulation to that. I'd like to bring it here. So you allow your imagination to create it, draw it out, create expressions of some sort, so that what happens, it gets encoded more in the organic 3D, 5D. That would be probably more organic 5D, 6D, 7D. But create that in a way of expression, and you'll see that that starts to become more and more real. So you'll experience it more, maybe possibly to start off in the dream state, and other parts of it you'll start to have a glimpse of that reality. But then what we can call a creation of experiencing it on this particular planet will eventually at some point, as the different co-creation come into place, that becomes more and more feasible. However, if it sees that it's going too slow and your soul says, not interested to the degree to wait this out, then you will choose, but you're still here because it's saying, okay, and it feels real to you because you've already experienced it. You've already not only had it in your imagination, but you've experienced it on different realms. Okay, was there anything you wanted to throw on that? Because you've had visions of other things. I think, what is it, eating cottage cheese on a cloud or something? No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's a commercial, honey.
Oh, okay.
Now, but
Do you have it on, by the way?
Yeah, I don't know. It says it's on. Maybe my battery's getting dead.
Okay.
Is it working?
Doesn't seem to be.
Okay. I think too that as our realities are all shifting, and that there is lots of different possibilities out there for us to create in ways we can't even really truly imagine yet, because
Okay. Speak a little louder because your thing died.
Oh, did it? Okay. So I think that we're coming to a point where we will be creating beyond what we can even imagine right now. So maybe we have those beliefs, or they come up here, like you said, with those visions in our head. And on this particular playing field we're on currently, it might seem unrealistic or unreal that it couldn't happen, but as we move forward, it's very possible.
Yes, because the more and more that we go along, we actually see the capacities and capabilities that we have opens up. Because we came here as very powerful creator beings, and as powerful creative beings, what we're bringing those imaginations, those experiences that we may have had on other planets, and or so the imagination of what is potentially capable of being done here, for that very reason, because we're not on a planet that here has been designed to be limited. We've just adopted those limitations, and we've adopted those modifications that we're reversing now because of the fact that we're no longer choosing to experience those limitations. You came here to experience the limitations, to break out of the limitations, or else you wouldn't have come here. You would have come here later when the limitations were gone. All of us would have come here at different points and say, okay, now the platform, the dynamics of the playground at this point in time can host my imagination. But we come here early because we wanted to see what those limitations were capable of experiencing, and then to bring those higher realities that go beyond those limitations, just to really open things up in a big way. Okay. So was there anything else?
No.
You don't have a mic, so you're going to have to talk. Yeah, okay. All right, so we will carry on with a part 5 on Thursday, 4 p.m. And then we have, if you want to show the slide, we have, okay, then we have a meditation, a meditation activation on appreciation and love coming up on Saturday, the 2nd of May, which will harness our most powerful creator aspect of ourselves, which is basically love and appreciation, and then uniting in oneness to create it. So we're basically, our offerings are coming into play to really accentuate the experience. So we invite you, if you feel in resonance, this is not a requirement in any way, shape, or form, if you feel in resonance, to join us on Saturday, May the 2nd at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and it will be different times depending on where you are on the planet, to do this beautiful group meditation. I will be guiding the meditation, and we'll also have music from Marco that will kind of be the background music, and can provide a copy without it, but we like to use the music because that way we give time to integrate, and the music to carry in between the spaces, because we're going to do the meditation in a way where we're actually involved very more deeply in that, because we're doing this together. The purpose of the meditation, do we have an issue? Or?
That's okay, I can't get the thing to come off so you can see it again.
Oh, okay. Hang on just a second.
It won't. It just keeps.
Technology and sometimes expertise on that. So the meditation is really for us to come together to basically transmit throughout the whole planet an appreciation of the game of life, of the current game of life, our current dance of life, not only personally but collectively, with love, with that appreciation, and then allow those energies of love and appreciation to kind of create a change within ourselves and the collective. Not to fix anything, not to change anything, just to really support the changes that are occurring, to support what needs to be stimulated, or we are open to stimulate within ourselves, and to create a beautiful, playful environment. So anyways, that's for May the 2nd. On this coming Thursday, a couple of days from now, we'll have part 5, and I think it should be the wrap-up for part 5, for us to wrap up this whole theme of clearing up and looking deeper into what is taking place. So join us then. I thank greatly and with a great appreciation and love for all the support we've been receiving financially and otherwise. and also the comments and so forth. We appreciate it. Thank you for supporting us. We appreciate any support that you do provide us and anything of that nature. We also have within the descriptions access to some of the programs that help you to go through some of the changes that you're going through to support you and so forth, and also the fact that you can join the community on the website. And if you missed the last workshop, of course, that's there too. So anyways, enjoy, and we'll see you next time. I think we've gone the 2-hour mark again at 2 hours and 16 plus, 16 minutes or so. So anyways, we're just trying to cover a lot so that you have a lot of tools for yourself, so we can fast track a lot of the movement across. I'm just sharing it with great love and appreciation for all of us that have chosen to come together. We're doing this such amazing work forward. Like I said, we're not here to create people disempowering themselves. We're just creating an environment so we all empower ourselves. Each one of us are empowering ourselves. Each one of us are assisting each other to empower ourselves. We're creating a new world. We are already in a new platform. Let's utilize it. Let's bring ourselves to the max. So go out. Till next time, go have fun.